We're joined today by Sarah Kroger. She is an artist and a worship leader. You've got a fantastic new album out. It is called A New Reality. Well, it's coming out on May 17th.
Yeah.
It's coming out right away. We're going to get around to that album in just a little bit. We haven't chatted with you since 2021. So, for our listeners who have not had the opportunity to get to know you, tell us a little bit about yourself and what brought you to music.
Sure. So happy to be back with you guys, seriously. Well, my parents were both involved in music ministry from before I was born, so always been in music in some way, shape, or form in the church. Forced to take piano lessons and voice lessons when I was younger. Absolutely hated it back in the day, but really grateful for it now, obviously, because it's become my life. But truly just always around music, and wasn't until I was in high school that I kind of had a deeper conversion to my faith, and it was through worship music. It was through encountering contemporary worship music for the first time that I learned how to pray. I had never really had a personal relationship with Jesus before that point, and it was really the worship that taught me how to do that. And ever since that point, just never stopped, never looked back in terms of my faith life. And it became the way that I prayed, and just started volunteering at my church and leading worship. And little by little, those opportunities grew. And now I can't imagine doing anything else. But it really all started with my parents' love for music and just kind of drawing us into that from day one.
I love it. And now you're sharing that with the world in a
Crazy.
beautiful way. Like I said earlier, we haven't chatted with you since 2021. Lots has happened since then, leading up to this amazing new album. Tell us a little bit about what has happened over the past 3 years with you.
Oh gosh. I mean, I think everyone's world was turned upside down for sure. Ours was in the span of one day. Our calendar, our touring calendar for the year just got wiped out. And so I was faced with a lot of time and a lot of questions and just a lot of time to think deeply about life. And we found ourselves taking walks in our neighborhood, my husband and I, just to ground ourselves. And it was such a season of everything else being stripped away and just being kind of this awe and wonder at the presence of God being renewed in my life and in my heart, and this childlike awe that was there the whole time, but it just kind of like reintroduced it in my life. And it was really through nature, just being in creation and grounding myself in nature again, that I was kind of renewed in that sense. And then at the same time, I found myself walking through a season of deep questioning and wondering at God for the first time in my faith journey, really wrestling with questions and silence. And so this album is kind of a mix of all of those things. It feels like a collection of Psalms in a sense, Psalms that talk about the glory of God and the wonder and awe of God, and Psalms that are from the pits of darkness and despair and questioning and everything in between. That's just the human experience, right? But in particular for me, it's an experience that I've had over the past few years, really tangibly. And so this album really kind of captured that, I would say.
Now you mentioned a little bit about that questioning and that doubt. What was that like for you, for someone who's never experienced that, never felt that? What was that like
Yeah.
all of a sudden to be standing there going, "Wow, I can't believe this. I'm questioning God. Like this is not a common thing for me."
Yeah, I realized what a gift my faith life has been up until this point. Honestly, the fact that it has come easy to me is a gift. And it's something that I think I took for granted, that it did come easy to me, because I know so many people, it's normal, right? It's normal to wrestle with God. It's normal to have doubts and questions. But for me, I just never struggled with that, like I said. And so it was really difficult. It was really painful. And I had to go through a process of grieving things for a long time. It was a season of real darkness for me, but I feel like I learned that I didn't know I could trust this God, or I didn't know I could trust God this deeply, is what I mean to say. I didn't know that I was capable of this level of trust, is what it's taught me in this season. And I hate that I had to walk through the darkness in order to learn
Mm.
that, but it is God's way, right? He does this over and over again. He shows us in the death of Jesus on the cross and the resurrection, how he brings new life into our life is through death and resurrection over and over again. And faith isn't believing in what we can see, it's believing in what we cannot see over and over again.
Yes.
And so it's been a real growing season for me, lots of growing pains. And I can now say that I'm grateful for it. I wouldn't say that I'm like on the other side of it and everything's solved. It's still to be seen, some
Yeah.
of the things that died along the way or that I've let go of. But I'm so grateful that we have a God who is patient and kind and faithful and walks with us through the night just as much as he walks with us through the day.
What would you say was the biggest help through this when you were in that doubt, that questioning period?
I would say community, including my husband, just really solid people who I could talk with and be honest with and share my questions with and my wrestling, and to just kind of be accepted and loved in that season and not seen as crazy, and people who walked with me through it and just said, "Welcome to the journey of faith. This is just the journey. There's times where things come easy and times when it doesn't, and it's okay. You're not crazy. You're just a human being." And there was so much grace that I received from that kind of reaction from people, and I'm just so grateful for that. So it really was community that kept me grounded in that season of just battling with it.
Oh, speaking of all those seasons, that's highly reflected in your new
Yeah.
album. I've only had the chance, like we said, to listen to the first few songs, but that first song, as soon as I listened to it, before I'd even read anything about your album and everything, I knew that this is a personal album. You got
Yeah.
deep in there. Tell people a little bit about this new album and what they can expect from you.
Yeah, they can expect a journey, for sure. They can expect honesty and vulnerability. I've never released such a vulnerable project, honestly. And I'm really excited about that because I really believe that the more honest and the more vulnerable we are, the deeper our relationships can be. And that's the same with God. The more honest we are with Him, the deeper our relationship grows. And so I think people can expect that in this album is just songs of honesty and songs that hopefully become their own companions in their own faith journey as they try to navigate the complicated path that is searching for and finding God in life?
Yes, it's an interesting yet beautiful journey.
It
Speaking of the vulnerability, what does that feel like now that this album is out and you have been so vulnerable and you're listening back? What does it feel like to be on the other side of that?
I was telling my husband the other day, this album of any album that I've released has felt so precious to me. I think because I feel like I've never been more present my voice has never been more present in a group of songs, whether it's in the writing or my physical voice. It just feels like this is such so deeply personal to me, and it's been just mine for the past couple of years as I've been writing it and producing it, and I've just been able to listen to it in my own little cocoon, and now it's just like out there in the world. It kind of feels like your little babies out there just like taking on a life of their own, and you're like, I hope people connect with this. I hope people don't, stomp these on, to the ground. I hope that they're precious with it as I have been, and I know that they won't be, but I also know that this is just the path of art. Art is vulnerable, and art is inherently communal, right? Like it doesn't make sense for me to just make this beautiful precious thing to me and then keep it to myself. Like it truly is a communal experience, and I'm excited for people to get to experience it and see their own life reflected through it, hopefully, and make it their own, like have their own stories with this music. Hopefully that's the dream, right? So it's definitely an interesting process being an artist over and over again. I feel like I just learn more with each and every release. So yeah.
You're putting everything out there, but in return, you don't know how many lives you're going to change. Is there any song on this album that is really like you mentioned that they're like your little babies? You don't want people to stomp all over them. Is there one song on there that is your like your baby you're holding close,
Oh
one that
man.
is very personal to you? I mean, they're all super personal, but is there one that you really truly are like, this is the song?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like that changes every week, depending on my mood and what I'm walking through. I mean, in the beginning, that was no filter. I didn't want to release that song at all because it was too vulnerable. It was too honest. It came probably in my darkest moment. And I remember writing it and just saying, well, that song is just for me. I'm not going to share that with anybody. Like I'm keeping that in the lockbox because it just felt too vulnerable, truly, for me to release it. And then my label heard it and they were like, "Hey, that song needs to come out. And not only does it need to come out, it needs to be the first one that you release." And just the more that I shared it with people, the more people just resonated with it and were just like, this needs to be out there because people need to hear the honesty and recognize that like there's no shame in questioning and in wrestling with faith. There's just no shame in it. So by you being honest, Sarah, like other people are going to experience that they can be honest with God. And that's been the reception. I was really expecting people to have a lot of hate around it or just like a lot of trolls around it. I don't know why. It's just like the narrative we spin in our head, right? But the reception has been nothing but people just being kind and saying thank you. Truly, thank you for being honest and showing me that I can be honest too. So I'm so grateful for that. We can be honest together. We can be vulnerable
Yes.
together and there's beauty in sharing that together. Truly.
I I can see why you were afraid to release that though too, because there is quite often though there is a stigma
Yeah.
when it comes to the faith community, when it comes to Christians, that it's like, no, no, no.
Yeah.
I have this amazing relationship with Jesus. I have no issues, but in reality, we're all struggling
Yeah.
at the
Well,
end of the day.
especially in the social media culture, all that you see is the good. You don't see the struggle. You don't see the days that are really hard. You don't share that. And I get that. There's certain things that you don't want to share with people, but again, all that we see is the perfect picture. And especially as a worship leader, you feel this pressure to have all the answers. And the truth is, like, I don't have all the answers. There are questions this side of heaven that I will never have the answer to, but I'm trusting and falling on my relationship with God and his faithfulness that he's shown in my life. I'm falling back on that to bring me into the future, whatever future he has for me, and trusting in that faithfulness. But wrestling is a part of it, and unanswered questions, unfortunately, are a part of the human experience.
There is beauty in honesty, something that we sometimes take for granted. Looking back, I know you're still in your journey after all of this. Looking back, though, when you look at the place you were in and the place you are now, would you change anything, or would you keep it the way it is?
No, I wouldn't, and that's an interesting thing for me to even be able to say, because there were definitely moments where I just felt like, "Why? Why, God? Why is this happening to me? This is too painful. Surely you can see how painful this is for me. Do you even care?" But now looking back, truly, and again, it's not all resolved, but it's almost like the despair has lifted from that season, which I'm so grateful for. But no, I wouldn't trade it at all. I mean, I wouldn't trade any of the suffering that I've walked through in my life because it's made me who I am today, and it's deepened my love for the Lord in a way that nothing else can. Suffering just does that, and it's a mystery. I still don't understand it, but God has shown me time and time again that he transforms suffering into beautiful things. I don't understand it, but it's just the truth. So I wouldn't wish it away. No, I wouldn't.
It's a roller coaster ride. It's a carnival. Back to your album. What do you hope? I know you've mentioned it a few times, but at the end of the day, what do you hope that the listeners will take away from this album?
Yeah. I hope they experience a companion on this journey of trying to be honest and that they, yeah, feel and experience the glory of God. There's a lot of wonder in this album, truly. There's a lot of just awe and reverence and songs that talk about the characteristics of God that you just can't understand. And so I hope people's awe and wonder is renewed as they listen to these songs and that they're truly led to the feet of God and recognizing that Yeah, we're all just trying to make it through. We're just human beings, complicated human beings, just trying to do our best, and that has to be enough some days, you know?
Yes, yes, indeed. A new reality, it will hit shelves. That's so weird to say that because it's not really going to hit shelves, but it'll hit the streaming world and possibly some shelves out there. May
Yeah.
17th for our listeners that are wanting to pick up this album or learn more about you, find out what you're up to. How can they go about doing that?
Yeah, you can go to my website, sarahkroger.com, Sarah with an H, Kroger. And then I also mostly hang out on Instagram at S Kroger. You can find me there, but I'm also on Facebook and all the places. But would love to connect with you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for making time for us this morning.
Of course. Thanks for hanging out. I really appreciate it.